Hello and welcome. On this episode of Abby Normal Garage, we do our first installment of Tool Tuesday. On this episode, we decided to cover our air compressor, as it is a cornerstone of our shop and powers most of our tools. What do you think, Abby? Well, here it is. We decided to go with this DeVilbiss TASV-5051. This unit was built in 1995. We found that out from the tank. We were actually looking at like a $3,000 Emax compressor. And one of the reasons why we were looking for that compressor in particular is a lot of the new compressors have really small pumps and they turn them fast to get the CFM. Whereas the more expensive ones have a huge pump like this DeVilbiss, and they turn it slower. For example, this one runs about 900 RPM. And we were scrolling through Marketplace and found this, and it was significantly cheaper. The guy said the motor was rebuilt. It was not. There was no way to test it in his facility, so we ended up paying him about half his asking price, and we brought it home. Now, we had this thing in our trailer. I'm going to insert a picture of that. It was sketchy as heck getting it home. And we actually dropped it out of the back of the trailer unloading it. It was quite embarrassing. But anyway, we finally got it in here. The start windings of the electric motor were shot. So if you could get it past the initial startup, it ran great. Made air and everything. So we changed capacitors and stuff like that, and it didn't fix it. So we ended up giving it a new leasing on life with this brand new leasing motor. That's why it doesn't match. And it's been good to us ever since. This thing does about 27 CFM. It keeps up with almost all of our air tools, except our larger grinder. The Emax we were looking at has about 30 CFM, so this really isn't that much less, considering it was at least half of the price. And DeVilbiss was making air compressors all the way back in the 20s and 30s. I mean, my dad's got a DeVilbiss that was made in the 50s that he got, and it's a lot smaller than this, single stage, and it's quiet as could be, and it's still trucking to this day. This is a two-stage pump, model number 44643. This big cylinder here is the primary stage. And one of the biggest drawbacks of these older style compressors is they don't have any aftercoolers. A lot of the newer compressors have big old finned aftercoolers and stuff like that. This only has this aluminum pipe which goes from the primary cylinder, loops around the back of the compressor a couple times before it goes into the secondary stage. And of course, it comes out this side of the secondary stage down this copper tube up into the tank. Now, this pulley does blow some air over it, but there's not really that much heat transfer. So when you're doing some long, hard grinding sessions, this tank gets so hot you can't even touch it. So we've been kicking around solutions for that. We did install this hour meter when we put the motor on. So this motor has 60 hours on it. And like I said, it's been doing great. We mounted the magnetic starters mounted back here. It's got 6-gauge wire going to it from the power panel. It did have an automatic drain valve on it when we got it, so we were pretty sure the tank was in great shape. We deleted all that and went with a manual drain. One of the biggest reasons we got rid of the automatic drain valve, other than it leaked and new O-rings wouldn't fix it, is this air compressor can keep up with almost all our tools. So when you're doing a long grinding session or air cutting session or whatever, instead of letting the motor cut on and cut off and cut on and cut off, it's actually better just to let it run. So we'll go ahead and just crack the drain valve and let enough air out so it stays hovering around 120, 130 psi, and it's good to go. So anyway, if you find yourself a good deal on an old compressor, don't necessarily shy away from it. They can be fixed and they do pretty well. Well, let's go ahead and drain some air and get it started. Looks like Abby's trying to get out of here for the day. She's been working hard. Go ahead and crack the valve and let's wait for it to start. That psst sound you hear when it shuts off, when the pressure switch shuts off, it actually has a little line here that takes the pressure out of this tube. So when the compressor goes to start again, it's unloaded, if you were curious. So when we change the motor on these things, they're heavy as can be. So we actually built this track in our ceiling with this chain fall. So we were able to lift it up and slide it out and lower it down in a trailer. So that definitely helped. And we just left it there. It's hooked up to my air system. Comes out of the middle part of the tank. The middle part of the tank has the driest air. It comes up this 3/4 tube, goes up around the corner, drops down here. I actually didn't intend to put a drop on this side, but I cut the hose before I realized what I was doing, and this is what I had, so I ran a drop down here. Now, this actually isn't a bad thing though, because a lot of times water will collect on its way, and you can just... It then runs over the garage door to another T on this side of the garage door. Pardon our mess, we got all our grease guns hung up here. It's up to this air filter, comes down to this hose spool, and there's no regulator or anything on this, and we use it quite a bit. So, oh, see, water collects in the low points. It also goes over the cabinet, around down here to behind the sandblaster, which originally that was mounted to the wall. We had to move it. Goes into another air filter. This one's right at our workbench. You've probably seen it in several videos. This one is regulated, and it also has this big 1/2-inch air fitting. And the 1/2-inch air fitting is for the outside sandblaster. We run a big hose for that. And of course, our sandblaster tees off back there with this shutoff valve. So that's where we stand right now. One of the things that I would like to do in the future is when I come up to here, I'd like to run a T and run it down the wall to the building behind this garage and actually set up another 80-gallon air tank. Or, you know, to be honest with you, if I can find another compressor for a good price, 80-gallon air tank with a compressor. And I would want to make it so the air went from this compressor to that tank and then came back into the shop. That would eliminate a lot of your water, and it would also give the air a chance to cool down before it got to your tools. Another thing that we would like to consider doing would be to put a refrigerated air dryer up. My dad's got one that works really well. So, well, that was an overview of our air compressor. We like it. We certainly hope you do. We hope you enjoy our segment Tool Thursday. If you like it, let us know in the comments below and we'll keep doing it. We're thinking of doing it as a weekly segment, whether it be as a short or a video, depending on what tool we're doing and how important it is. But, well, let us know. Don't hesitate to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and we'll see you on the next episode of Abby Normal Garage.